The salvage probe burst into flames 3 meters from the entrance. Quinn watched the screen go dark and felt his secondary heart sink. That made 6 probes lost in 2 days, and the council would not approve funding for a 7th. Pull back, he ordered his crew. Mark this zone as a total loss. His navigator, Bryn, tilted her head in that way her species did when confused. Sir, there are energy readings from inside. Something is active in there. Impossible. Nothing survives Zone 7. You know the statistics. I know what the sensors say. Bryn's fingers danced across her console. Multiple heat signatures. Movement patterns. Either our equipment is broken or something is alive in there. Quinn studied the readings. She was right. The patterns were too regular to be random. Too purposeful. He had spent 5 years studying the Forbidden Zones, those ancient structures scattered across the galaxy that killed everything that entered them. Automated probes died. Shielded drones melted. Living beings simply stopped existing the moment they crossed the threshold. 47 species had tried to explore them. 47 species had failed. Move us closer, he said. Carefully, their ship drifted toward Zone 7, a massive ring-shaped structure floating in dead space. It had been here for thousands of years, maybe millions. No one knew who built it or why. All anyone knew was that entering one meant death. Through the viewport, Quinn saw light inside the ring. Not the cold glow of stars, but warm yellow light. Artificial. Recent. There, Bryn pointed. Do you see that? A figure moved inside the zone. Bipedal, wearing what looked like a simple work suit with no radiation shielding, no quantum dispersers, no gravitic stabilizers. Just cloth and metal. The figure carried a toolbox. What species is that? Quinn whispered. Bryn checked her database. Matching body structure. It appears to be human. Human? Those newcomers from the Outer Rim? What are they doing in a forbidden zone? As if answering his question, the human walked directly through a barrier that had disintegrated their probe. The barrier flickered, recognizing the intrusion, energy building to lethal levels. Quinn gripped his chair, waiting for the inevitable death. The human kept walking. The barrier pulsed once, twice, then went dormant. Recording this? Quinn asked. Every second, Bryn confirmed. No one will believe it otherwise. They watched for another hour. 2 more humans appeared, both moving through the zone as casually as if they were strolling through a garden. One of them stopped to eat something from a container. The other laughed at something, the sound somehow carrying across the vacuum in their transmitted radio chatter. They're talking about sports, Bryn said, translating the human language. One of them is complaining about his back hurting. Sir, they're treating this like a normal workplace. Quinn made a decision. Hail them. Sir, if they can survive in there, they might answer questions out here. Hail them. The communication channel crackled to life. A human face appeared on screen, young and curious. Oh, hey there. You folks need something? I'm Roy, by the way. I am Quinn of the Collective Research Institute. We have been studying this structure. How are you alive? Roy looked confused. Alive? Why wouldn't we be alive? Because that is a forbidden zone. It kills everything that enters. This place. Roy glanced around. Nah, it's fine. Little cold maybe, but the life support works great. We've been doing maintenance here for 3 months. 3 months. Quinn felt dizzy. You have been inside for 3 months? Well, not continuously. We go home on weekends. But yeah, this is our regular site. Company got the contract to restore power to these old stations. There's like 50 of them in this sector alone. 50. The collective had documented 12 forbidden zones in this region, each one considered absolutely lethal. The humans have been casually working in all of them. Have you lost anyone? Quinn asked. Any deaths or injuries? Roy scratched his head. Beth twisted her ankle last week tripping over some cables. Oh, and Gil got a pretty bad sunburn when he fell asleep during lunch break near the observation port. But that's about it. Why? Because every other species that has entered these structures has died instantly. Really? That's wild. Hang on, let me call Beth over. She loves talking about weird science stuff. Another human appeared on screen, older than Roy, with grease stains on her suit. You're the researchers? Cool. We've been wondering why these places were abandoned. They're perfectly functional once you get the power restored. They were not abandoned, Quinn said carefully. They're death traps. We have records of 17 major expeditions that attempted to explore them. Not a single survivor. Beth frowned. But we walk through here every day. What's different about humans? That, Quinn said, is exactly what I want to understand. Would you be willing to participate in some tests? Tests? Like medical tests, observational studies, measurements. I want to understand why you survive when nothing else does. Beth looked at Roy, who shrugged. I guess, as long as it doesn't interfere with work. We've got quotas to meet. Quotas. They were worried about work quotas while standing inside a structure that should be atomizing them. Quinn pulled up his data files, sending them to the human ship's computer. I am transmitting 40 years of research on the Forbidden Zones. Every theory we have developed. Every test we have conducted. Please review it and tell me if anything seems unusual to you. Beth scrolled through the data, her expression growing more confused. This says the zones emit a quantum resonance field that destabilizes complex neural patterns. Class 7 and above only. Correct. It targets any species with advanced cognitive development. But humans are Class 7. We should be getting killed too. Yet you are not. That is the mystery. Roy leaned into the camera. So, basically, we can go places no one else can go? That's pretty cool. It is unprecedented, Quinn said. In all of galactic history, no species has ever been immune to the zones. Until now, Beth was still reading. Hey, this mentions that the fields get stronger toward the center of each structure. Has anyone ever made it to the core? No. The deepest anyone has penetrated is 40 meters. After that, even our strongest shielding fails. We're about 200 meters in, Roy said. Fixing the primary reactor. Want us to check out the core for you? Quinn's translator must have malfunctioned. You are 200 meters inside, give or take. There's some cool stuff back there. Ancient computers, weird art on the walls, stuff like that. We take pictures during breaks. Pictures. They had pictures of things no living being had seen in millennia. Quinn felt the weight of discovery settling on his shoulders. This changed everything. If humans could explore the zones, they could unlock secrets that had been sealed away for eons. I am coming aboard your facility, Quinn said. I will remain outside, but I must study this phenomenon directly. With your permission. Sure thing, Roy said. Fair warning, though, we're pretty boring. Mostly just rewiring and system diagnostics. Boring. They considered immunity to ancient death fields boring. Quinn signaled Bryn to prepare the shuttle. He had spent his entire career studying the impossible, and now the impossible was inviting him over for lunch. As their shuttle approached the zone, Quinn saw Roy waiting at the entrance, waving cheerfully. The human was standing in a doorway that should not exist, in a place that should be empty, doing a job that should be fatal. The galaxy had just become a much stranger place. The human break room smelled like burnt coffee and something Quinn's translator identified as synthetic cheese product. Beth sat across from him at a folding table, her feet propped up on a toolbox, eating what she called a sandwich. So you want to know what it feels like inside the zone? She asked between bites. Quinn activated his recording device. Every detail, please. Even sensations that seem irrelevant. Beth thought for a moment. Honestly, feels like any other space station. The air is a bit stale because the recyclers are old. Gravity is 0.89 standard, so things feel a little floaty. Temperature runs cold unless you're near the reactor. My knees hurt because I spend too much time crawling through maintenance shafts. No tingling, no pressure, no sense of wrongness. Nope. Should there be? Quinn showed her a video from a failed expedition. A shielded drone crossing the threshold, its readings spiking into chaos before it simply ceased to function. This is what happens to our equipment. The fields should be affecting your nervous system in similar ways. Beth watched the video twice. Weird. Our equipment works fine in here. Well, mostly fine. We had to replace some sensors because they kept giving false readings, but nothing exploded. What kind of false readings? Random stuff. Radiation alarms going off when there's no radiation. Quantum field detectors showing impossible values. We just assumed the sensors were old. They're reading the zone's fields. Almost certainly, those impossible values are likely accurate. The zones emit energy patterns we cannot fully classify. They should be lethal to organic neural tissue. Roy walked in carrying a datapad. Hey Beth, we need to recalibrate the plasma couplings in Section 9. Oh, King. Learning anything interesting? I am learning that everything I thought I knew might be wrong. Quinn admitted. Cool. Hey, want to see something neat? Roy pulled up a schematic on his pad. We found these patterns in the wall panels. They're everywhere once you know what to look for. Beth thinks they might be writing. Quinn studied the patterns. His academic training recognized them immediately. These are linguistic markers from the Builder civilization. We have found similar patterns on archaeological sites across the galaxy, but never intact like this. Never functional. There's miles of this stuff deeper in, Beth said. We've been photographing it all. Figured someone would want to study it eventually. Miles of intact Builder script. Universities would fight wars over access to this kind of data. I need those photographs. All of them. Sure, I'll send them over. You got a big data storage? There's like 40,000 images. Quinn nearly dropped his recording device. 40,000 images of Builder script would reshape galactic archaeology. Yes, please send everything. Beth tapped her pad, and the transfer began. So what's the deal with these Builder folks anyway? Why'd they make these stations? We do not know. The Builder civilization vanished millions of years ago. They left structures across the galaxy, but most are ruins. These zones are the only intact facilities we have ever found, and we cannot access them. Well, you can now, Roy said. Just bring humans along. That is not a simple solution. The Collective Council will need to understand why humans are immune before they authorize joint expeditions. There are political complications. Beth raised an eyebrow. Political complications? Quinn chose his words carefully. Humans are a new species in galactic society. You have been part of the Collective for less than a decade. Some council members are uncomfortable with the idea of depending on newcomers for access to ancient sites. Pretty. Beth nodded. Yeah, we get that. Some folks back home weren't thrilled about joining the Collective either. Thought we should stay independent. How did you overcome that resistance? By being useful, mostly. Turns out humans are pretty good at fixing things. We got a knack for understanding how systems work, even alien systems. Plus, we don't mind doing the dirty, dangerous jobs that other species avoid. Roy grinned. Like working in death zones. Exactly like that. Beth finished her sandwich. Look, Quinn, I get that this is weird for you. But from our perspective, these are just old stations that need maintenance. We're not doing anything special. We show up, we do the work, we go home. If that helps your research, great. If it makes the council nervous, well, they'll get over it. An alarm chirped on the wall panel. Roy checked it inside. Coolant leak in Sector 12. I'll grab Wade and Hugh, get patched up. Sector 12 is in the deep zone, Quinn said. Our models show the fields there should be strong enough to disrupt quantum bonds in living tissue. Well, we've been in there before. Wade spent like 6 hours replacing pipes last month. Complained about it the whole time, but he's fine. Roy grabbed his toolkit. Want to watch from the monitors? You can see what happens when we go deep. Quinn absolutely wanted to watch. They moved to the command center, where multiple screens showed different sections of the facility. Beth pulled up Sector 12's camera feeds. Through the grainy footage, Quinn watched Roy, Wade, and Hugh walk down a corridor that should not allow life to exist. The readings on his equipment climbed to dangerous levels. Red warnings flashed across his screens. The energy fields in that section were powerful enough to sterilize a small moon. The three humans were having a conversation about a ball game. This is impossible, Quinn muttered. You keep saying that, Beth observed. But they're clearly fine. Maybe your models are wrong. My models are based on 40 years of research, hundreds of experiments, thousands of dead probes and drones. Right, but did you ever test humans before? No, because we only discovered these zones 8 years ago, and humans only joined the Collective 7 years ago. We had no reason to test your species specifically. Beth pulled up a biological database. What exactly do these fields target? You said complex neural patterns. Yes, they identify and disrupt specific brainwave signatures. Any species with Class 7 intelligence or higher triggers an immediate lethal response. The smarter you are, the faster you die. And humans are Class 7. According to every test we have administered, yes. You should be dying just as quickly as any other species. But we're not. Beth scrolled through the data. What if the fields are looking for something specific? Not just intelligence, but a particular kind of intelligence. Explain. Well, look at this. Every species you tested has been part of the collective for generations, right? They've all got history with builder technology. They've studied it, reverse engineered it, built their own civilizations on top of builder ruins. What if the fields recognize that somehow? Quinn considered her words. You are suggesting the zones identify species who have interacted with builder technology? Maybe. Or maybe they're looking for some kind of genetic marker that older species have, but humans don't. We're new, remember? We didn't even know about the builders until we joined the collective. We got no history with them. It was a theory worth exploring. Quinn pulled up genetic databases, comparing human DNA to other species. The differences were obvious, but he was looking for something specific, something that older species shared but humans lacked. There, he said, highlighting a sequence. This genetic marker appears in every spacefaring species we have tested. It is common across the galaxy, except in humans. What does it do? We are not certain. It appears to be junk DNA, evolutionary debris with no current function, but is old, millions of years old. It predates modern civilization in most species. Beth leaned forward. What if it's not junk? What if the builders put it there? The implications made Quinn's skin crawl. That would mean the builders genetically modified species across the galaxy. But they tagged them somehow, and the zones recognized the tag. Beth finished. But humans never got tagged because we evolved too far out on the rim, away from builder space. We're not part of their system. That is a disturbing hypothesis. Yeah, but it fits the data, doesn't it? On the monitor, Roy and his team finished their repair work and headed back toward the safe zone, laughing about something. Alive, healthy, untagged. Quinn saved his recordings and prepared his report. The council would not like this theory. No one wanted to believe their entire species had been marked by ancient aliens for unknown purposes. But the evidence was mounting, and humans were the proof. The laboratory smelled like antiseptic and fear. Gil sat in the testing chair, electrodes attached to his head, while a dozen scientists from 6 different species watched nervously from behind reinforced glass. Quinn stood closest to the observation window, his notes already filling 3 data pads. "How are you feeling?" asked Trell, the medical supervisor. "Fine," Gil said. "Little bored, honestly. How much longer?" "We are about to activate the field emitter. It will replicate the energy signature found in the forbidden zones at 5% power. Are you ready?" "Sure, fire it up." Trell hesitated, his manipulator hovering over the controls. "You understand that this field has killed test animals at 2% power?" "Yeah, you mentioned that. Look, I volunteered for this. Either it works or it doesn't, but we won't know until you turn on." Quinn admired the human's calm. No other species would willingly expose themselves to a forbidden zone field, even at reduced power. But Gil had signed up immediately when the call went out for human test subjects. Trell activated the emitter. Energy flooded the testing chamber, visible as a purple shimmer in the air. Alarms immediately started blaring. The field strength indicators climbed into the danger zone. Every safety protocol screamed for an emergency shutdown. Gil yawned. "Increase to 10%, Quinn ordered. "That is extremely dangerous," Trell protested. "The human appears unaffected." "Continue." The field doubled in strength. Through the window, Quinn could see the air itself warping from the energy density. Metal instruments in the chamber began to vibrate. The concrete floor showed stress fractures. Gil scratched his nose. 15%. "Quinn, the chamber cannot handle much more. The containment walls are rated for 20% maximum." "Noted. 15%, please." The energy signature now matched what they measured at the edge of a forbidden zone. This was the threshold where probes failed and drones melted. The same field that had killed hundreds of test subjects over decades of research. Gil looked at the observation window. Is something supposed to be happening? I don't feel anything. The scientists erupted in overlapping conversations. Impossible, the thorium biologist said. No living thing should survive this, the Kelson physicist argued. We must be measuring something wrong, the Rinian chemist insisted. We are not measuring wrong, Quinn said quietly. We are simply measuring something we do not understand. Shut down the field. Bring Gil out. When a human emerged from the testing chamber, a medical team swarmed him with scanners and diagnostic equipment. His vital signs were normal. His neural activity showed no disruption. His cellular structure remained stable. By every measure, he was perfectly healthy. That was anticlimactic, Gil said. Should I go again? No. We have sufficient data from this test. Thank you for your participation. Cool. Do I get paid now? Money. The human wanted money for potentially dying in a scientific experiment. Quinn approved the payment voucher and sent Gil on his way, then turned to his fellow researchers. Theories? He asked. The thorium biologist pulled up a cellular comparison. Human cells show remarkable resilience to quantum field disruption. I believe their DNA repair mechanisms are more robust than standard galactic species. That does not explain complete immunity, the Kelson physicist countered. Robust repair would mean they survive longer, not indefinitely. Something else is protecting them. The Rinian chemist highlighted a molecular structure. Look at their neural chemistry. Humans use different neurotransmitter balances than we do. Perhaps the field cannot recognize their brainwave patterns as valid targets. Quinn considered each theory. All had merit. None felt complete. We need to test deeper. I want to compare human genetics against the oldest species in the collective database. Look for differences that predate modern civilization. The research took 3 days. Quinn barely slept, surviving on stimulants and determination. The data slowly revealed a pattern. Every spacefaring species in the galaxy shared certain genetic markers. Ancient sequences that appeared to have no function but remained conserved across millions of years of evolution. Every species had them, except humans. Humans lacked 17 specific genetic sequences that were otherwise universal. 17 pieces of code that did nothing observable but appeared in every other sentient race. They were like signatures written into the very fabric of galactic life. Quinn called an emergency conference with the collective council. Politicians and scientists gathered in the council chamber, their faces showing various degrees of skepticism. He presented his findings, walking them through the genetic analysis step by step. You are suggesting we were all modified? Council member next demanded. That some ancient force changed our DNA. The evidence suggests exactly that. These sequences serve no biological function we can identify, yet they are identical across hundreds of unrelated species. The probability of that occurring naturally is effectively zero. Then how do humans escape this modification? They evolved too far from builder space. Humanity arose on a world in the outer spiral arm, far from any known builder sites. Whatever process distributed these genetic markers never reached Earth. A Kelson scientist stood. If this is true, why would the builders mark us? What purpose does it serve? I do not know, but I believe the forbidden zones are designed to detect these markers. They are filters, identifying and eliminating anything that carries builder genetic signatures. That makes no sense, another council member said. Why would they mark us and then build structures to kill us? Quinn had thought about this question for days. Perhaps they were not trying to kill us. Perhaps they were trying to protect something. The zones keep out any species with builder markers, but they allow unmarked species to enter freely. That suggests the builders wanted to preserve something for species they had not touched, a species that evolved naturally without their interference. Humans, next said flatly, or someone like humans. We do not know if other unmarked species exist in unexplored regions. But yes, humans are the first we have found who can access the zones safely. The council chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Every species present had been genetically modified by ancient aliens. Every species except the newcomers from Earth, that Thorian elder spoke, her voice wavering with age. I have studied builder artifacts for 60 years. We always assumed they were benevolent, that they uplifted primitive species and seeded civilization across the stars. Are you saying they did something else? I'm saying they had reasons we do not understand. The genetic markers could be benevolent. They could be something else entirely. We simply do not know. But humans do not have them, Next said, which means humans can go where we cannot. They can access builder facilities that have been sealed for millennia. They hold the key to understanding our own genetic history. Quinn nodded. That is correct. This changes everything. If we want to understand what the builders did to us, we need human cooperation. We need them to explore the zones on our behalf. They have already agreed, Quinn said. I spoke with the human government before this meeting. They are willing to send exploration teams into every known forbidden zone, free of charge, in exchange for full partnership in analyzing whatever they find. Free of charge. Next sounded suspicious. What do they want in return? Knowledge. Humans are curious by nature. They want to understand the builders as much as we do. And they recognize that keeping this information secret would damage galactic trust. They prefer cooperation. A younger council member laughed bitterly. The newest species in the collective, and they're teaching us about cooperation. How humbling. Quinn pulled up his next set of data. There is more. We have identified 247 forbidden zone structures across the galaxy. The humans have proposed a systematic exploration program, starting with the nearest zones and working outward. They estimate it will take 5 years to map them all. 5 years to access facilities we could not enter in 50, the Thorian elder said. I want to be part of the research teams. This is too important to leave to politicians. As do I, Quinn said, which is why I am requesting assignment as the primary collective liaison to the human exploration program. Next studied him. You realize this makes you dependent on humans? Your entire research career will rely on their cooperation. My entire research career has been trying to understand the forbidden zones. Humans are the only way forward. I will work with them gladly. The vote was unanimous. Quinn received his assignment, along with a research budget that made his previous funding look like pocket change. The collective was betting everything on human immunity and on the hope that whatever the builders left behind would be worth the risk. That night, Quinn sent a message to Gil, thanking him again for his participation in the tests. The human's response came back within minutes. No problem. Let me know if you need me to walk through any more death fields. That was actually kind of fun. Fun. The human found mortal danger fun. Quinn saved the message. A reminder that perhaps the strangest thing about humans was not their immunity to ancient technology, that IT was their attitude toward it. The archive chamber stretched beyond the range of their portable lights and stood at the entrance, her scanning equipment painting a three-dimensional map of the space beyond. Walls lined with metallic panels extended for at least a kilometer in every direction, each panel covered in builder script that pulsed with faint blue light. We hit the jackpot, she said into her radio. Outside the zone, safely aboard the research vessel, Quinn watched through the camera feed. Can you estimate how much data storage that represents? More than the entire collective library. Maybe 10 times more. Quinn, this is just one chamber. The scans show dozens of similar rooms deeper in the structure. We need everything recorded. Every symbol, every pattern. The linguists are standing by for translation and moved forward carefully, not because of danger, but because she felt like an intruder in a sacred space. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The air was cold and still, untouched for eons. The builder panels hummed softly, their power source still functioning after millions of years. She stopped at the nearest wall and placed her hand against it. The metal was warm. The symbols shifted slightly under her touch, rearranging themselves into new patterns. Her camera recorded everything. The panels are interactive, she reported. They respond to contact. Do not activate anything until we understand what it does, Quinn said, his voice tight with worry. Little late for that. The wall panel had opened, revealing a small compartment. Inside was a crystalline object, roughly the size of Anne's fist, glowing with the same blue light as the script. "What did you do?" Quinn demanded. "I touched the wall. This thing appeared. Hang on, there's more script here. Looks like instructions." Anne's translation software struggled with the builder language, but she could make out enough to understand the basic meaning. The crystal was a data storage device, a portable archive containing information about the zone's purpose. Instructions for retrieval were surprisingly simple. Touch the crystal and think about what you want to know. "That seems too easy," Anne said. "Because it probably is. Do not touch it." And picked up the crystal. Information flooded her mind. Not painful, just overwhelming. Images, concepts, mathematical formulas, historical records, all pouring into her consciousness faster than she could process. She saw the builders as they were, a civilization spanning galaxies, working on timescales humans could barely comprehend. She saw their great project, the genetic modifications they made to developing species across known space. She saw why they did it, the plague, a quantum-level disease that targeted neural tissue. It had nearly destroyed the builders, killing billions before they found a defense. The genetic markers they spread were antibodies, protection against the plague encoded directly into DNA. They gave every species in the galaxy immunity to a threat that no longer existed. Except the immunity had a cost. The markers made species vulnerable to something else, something the builders feared more than the plague, and dropped the crystal, gasping. Her hand shook. Tears ran down her face, though she could not say why she was crying. "Anne?" "Anne, respond." Quinn's voice cut through her confusion. "I am okay. I am okay. The crystal showed me things. History. The builders made the markers to protect species from a plague. But there's more. Something they were afraid of. What were they afraid of? I don't know. The information was fragmented. But the zones, these forbidden zones, they're not prisons. They're refuges. Safe places where unmarked species can hide from something. Hide from what? That's what we need to find out. The crystal says there are more archives deeper in the structure. Records of what the builders were protecting us from. I'm going deeper. And wait, we should analyze what you have learned before proceeding. No time. The crystals show me something else. The zones are connected. They form a network across the galaxy. If we activate the right systems, we can travel between them instantly. The builders made an escape route. Quinn, they were planning for something catastrophic, and moved deeper into the archive, her equipment mapping every meter. The chamber branched into multiple corridors, each one leading to different sections of stored data. She chose the path marked with symbols or translator interpreted as final warnings. The corridor opened into a spherical room. Holographic projections activated as she entered, showing star maps and timelines, and recognized the galaxy's shape, but the map was old. Spiral arms were in different positions. Stars that no longer existed still burned bright in the projection that a builder appeared in the hologram, life-sized and eerily realistic. It spoke in a language Anne's equipment could barely translate, but the meaning came through clearly enough. This was a message meant for whoever found it, a message meant for the unmarked. The builder explained their failure. The plague had been defeated, but in doing so, they had made every marked species dependent on builder technology. The genetic modifications required maintenance, adjustments to account for evolutionary changes. The builders had planned to provide that maintenance forever. Then they discovered they were dying out. Not from plague or war, but from exhaustion. Their civilization had spread too far, lasted too long. They were fading, and there was no reversing it. They built the zones. Sanctuaries where unmarked species that evolved naturally without builder intervention, could find refuge if the marked species' genetic modifications began to fail. They prepared archives explaining everything. They created a network for evacuation. They did their best to ensure some form of intelligent life would survive their departure. They were trying to save us, and whispered. Save us from what? Quinn asked. From themselves. From their own legacy. The genetic markers they put in every species were supposed to be permanent, but they're not. They degrade over time. Slowly, so slowly that it takes millions of years to notice. But eventually they fail. That is not possible. We have studied our own genetics extensively. There is no sign of degradation, because it's still early, but it's happening. The builder in the message said it would take approximately 5 million years for the markers to break down completely. When that happens, every marked species in the galaxy will be vulnerable to the plague again. Except the plague is gone. So instead, they'll just have broken genetic code with no purpose. Mutations, cancers, genetic disorders that appear out of nowhere. You are saying we are all slowly dying because of what the builders did to us. Not dying. Not yet. But we will be, eventually, unless we find a way to fix the markers or remove them safely. The hologram shifted, showing chemical formulas and genetic sequences. The builder explained the solution they had prepared. In every zone, buried in the deepest archives, were instructions for genetic therapy, ways to repair the degrading markers or remove them entirely. The choice would be up to the species involved, but the knowledge was there. They left us a cure and said, for a disease we didn't know we had, for a problem that won't be critical for millions of years. They thought that far ahead, and they built it so only unmarked species could access it, Quinn said, understanding. Because marked species would not recognize the danger. They would not believe their own genetics were flawed. Exactly. But humans, we don't have a markers. We can see the problem objectively. We can retrieve the cure and share it, and downloaded everything the archive contained, compressing millions of years of builder knowledge into portable storage. Her equipment strained under the data load, but it held. When she finished, she had genetic therapy protocols for every known species in the collective, plus hundreds more that no longer existed. She also had coordinates. The message explained that every forbidden zone contained similar archives, but the central hub held something more important. The Master Archive, where the builders stored their complete history and all their remaining technology. The location was deep in uncharted space, in a region humans had designated as the Far Dark. I found it and said, the main builder facility. Everything they left behind is there. How far? 3 months travel at maximum speed. Longer if we bring a full research fleet. We need to report this to the council immediately. And nodded, but her attention was on the hologram. The builder's message was ending. Its final words were simple, translated into every language. Forgive us for what we did. Forgive us for leaving. May the unmarked inherit what we could not preserve. The hologram faded. The spherical chamber fell dark except for Anne's lights. She stood in silence for a moment, processing everything she had learned. The builders were gone, but their legacy remained, encoded in the DNA of billions of beings across the galaxy. A gift that had become a curse, waiting for someone to fix it. That someone, apparently, was humanity. Quinn, she said. Yes. Tell the council we need to organize an expedition to the Far Dark. Tell them we found the cure for something they don't know is broken. And tell them that humans are going to fix it, whether they like it or not. That is not very diplomatic. Neither are the builders. But they trusted us with this, so we're going to see it through. And gathered her equipment and headed back toward the entrance. Behind her, the archive chamber went dormant again, its knowledge safely copied, its secrets finally shared. The forbidden zones were forbidden no longer. They were humanity's inheritance. Cal floated in zero gravity, checking his tether for the 3rd time. Around him, 12 other humans prepared their equipment, while 24 collective ships maintained a careful perimeter. They were about to enter Zone 147, the largest forbidden zone ever discovered, and nobody wanted surprises. Sound off, Cal said into his radio point one by one. His team confirmed readiness. Engineers, scientists, data specialists, all human, all volunteers. Quinn wanted to send more support staff, but the zone's interior was too dangerous for anyone carrying builder markers. Humans went in alone or not at all. Perimeter is secure, Quinn reported from the command ship. We are reading massive energy fluctuations inside the zone. Whatever is active and there is far more powerful than anything we have encountered before. Noted. We're going in. Cal activated his maneuvering pack and drifted toward the zone entrance. The familiar shimmer of builder energy passed over him, making his instruments flicker briefly before settling back to normal. He was inside. The zone's interior was different from the others. Where previous facilities had been dark and dormant, this one blazed with light. Holographic displays lined the walls, showing real-time data from across the galaxy. Power conduits hummed with energy. The air itself seemed to vibrate with potential. "This place is fully active," Cal said. "It looks like someone's been maintaining it. Impossible. The builders have been gone for millions of years. Then they left some seriously good automation running. Hang on, I'm seeing something." Text on the walls. It's in basic galactic standard, not builder script. Cal moved closer to the nearest wall panel. The text was simple, direct, clearly meant for whoever found this place. "Welcome to Network Hub Primary. You have reached the heart of the preservation system. If you're reading this, you are unmarked and therefore capable of administering the genetic therapy protocols stored here. Please proceed to the central archive for full instructions." "They knew we'd come," Cal said. "They left instructions in our language. How could they know what language unmarked species would speak? Maybe they didn't know specifically, but they built translation systems good enough to figure it out." These builders were thorough. Cal followed the lighted pathway deeper into the hub. His team spread out, documenting everything, taking samples, recording measurements. The hub was enormous, easily 10 times larger than any other zone they had explored. It was also intact, pristine, as if the builders had locked it up yesterday instead of eons ago. They reached the central archive after 20 minutes of careful maneuvering. The chamber was circular, with a raised platform in the center. On the platform stood a pillar of crystalline material, similar to the data storage devices, and had found but much larger. It pulsed with rhythmic light like a heartbeat. "That's either the most important thing we'll ever find or a really elaborate trap," one of Cal's team said. "Only one way to know, for sure." Cal approached the pillar and placed his hand on its surface. The hub came alive. Every screen, every display, every holographic system activated simultaneously. Data streamed across the walls in languages Cal recognized and dozens he did not. The pillar grew warm under his hand, responding to his presence. A voice spoke, synthesized but clear. "Genetic scan complete. Subject identified as unmarked human. Access granted to all preservation system functions. Welcome, Administrator." "Administrator?" Cal said. "I'm not an administrator of anything." "You are now," the voice replied. The builders designated all unmarked species as potential administrators of the preservation system. "Your genetic profile grants you full authority over all network functions, including genetic therapy protocols, facility maintenance, and emergency evacuation procedures." Cal pulled his hand back, but the systems remained active. Okay. What exactly is the preservation system? A network of 247 facilities designed to protect unmarked species and provide genetic therapy to marked species when the builder modifications begin to fail. Current system status: all facilities operational. Time until critical intervention required for marked species, for 0.7 million years. So we got time. Affirmative. However, early intervention is recommended. Genetic therapy is more effective before degradation symptoms appear. Quinn's voice crackled over the radio. "Cal, what is happening?" "We are reading massive power surges across the entire zone network. Every forbidden zone in the galaxy just activated." Cal looked at the displays. Quinn was right. All 247 zones were now online, connected, synchronized. The entire network had been waiting for someone to wake it up. "I think I accidentally turned everything on," Cal said. "Can you turn it off?" "Probably shouldn't. The system says it's ready to provide genetic therapy to everyone who needs it. That's kind of important." The synthesized voice spoke again. Query: "Do you wish to begin therapy distribution to marked species?" "Wait, no. Not yet. We need to explain this to people first. You can't just start rewriting everyone's DNA without warning them." "Understood." Therapy distribution paused pending administrator approval. "Alternative functions are available. Would you like to access the travel network? Travel network. A new set of displays appeared, showing the locations of all zones. Lines connected them, pathways through space that defied normal physics. The forbidden zones serve multiple purposes. In addition to providing sanctuary and therapy, they function as instantaneous transportation hubs. Any unmarked individual may travel between zones without time delay. Cal's mind raced. Instantaneous travel across the galaxy, but only for humans. The implications were staggering. How does it work? Step onto the transport platform and designate your destination. The network will transfer you via quantum tunneling. Travel time, 0. Energy cost, minimal. One of Cal's team members, a physicist named Tess, pushed forward. That's not possible. Quantum tunneling doesn't work that way for macroscopic objects. Builder technology operates beyond current galactic understanding, the voice replied. Demonstration available upon request. Yes, Cal said. Show us. A doorway opened in the chamber wall. Beyond, it was another transport platform, identical to the one in the room. The display above the door showed coordinates for Zone 12 on the opposite side of the galaxy. Step through the doorway. You will arrive at the designated zone instantly. Tess volunteered before Cal could stop her. She walked through the doorway and vanished. Cal's radio immediately crackled with her voice. Oh my, Cal, I'm in Zone 12. I just traveled 15,000 light years in one step. The implications hit Cal all at once. Humans could now travel anywhere in the galaxy instantly, as long as there was a forbidden zone nearby. They could respond to emergencies, transport supplies, evacuate populations. They had just become the most mobile species in existence. Quinn, are you getting all this? Every word. Cal, do you understand what this means? Humans now control a transportation network that spans the entire galaxy. You can go anywhere we cannot. You can do things we cannot. This changes the balance of power in the collective completely. We're not going to hoard it, Cal said. We'll share access with everyone. That's what the builders wanted. But only unmarked species can use the network. You cannot share what others cannot touch. Cal saw the problem. The zones were valuable beyond measure, but only humans could access them. That made humanity uniquely powerful, uniquely necessary. Some species would welcome that. Others would resent it. Then we'll have to be careful, Cal said. We'll use the network to help, not to control. We'll be the bridge between the zones and everyone else. A noble sentiment. I hope the Council shares your optimism. Cal spent the next 6 hours exploring the hub's systems with his team. They found medical facilities capable of treating any known disease, manufacturing systems that could produce technology far beyond current galactic standards, archives containing knowledge the collective had been searching for since they discovered the first builder ruins. They also found a warning. Buried deep in the system files was a message marked Critical Alert. Cal opened it. The message was from the builders, but written recently. Not millions of years ago. Recently. How is this possible? Cal asked the system. The builders did not entirely vanish. A small number entered suspended animation in a hidden facility, maintaining the preservation system and monitoring galactic development. They have been watching, waiting for unmarked species to arrive. They're still alive. Affirmative. 643 builders remain in stasis, awaiting contact with unmarked administrators. They wish to meet you. Cal's hand shook. The builders were alive. After millions of years, they survived and they want to talk. To humans. Where are they? The system displayed coordinates deep in uncharted space. The location is protected by the strongest defenses in the network. Only unmarked administrators may approach. Do you wish to make contact? Cal looked at his team. They stared back, faces showing the same mix of excitement and fear he felt. This was beyond anything they had prepared for. The builders were waiting. The species that had shaped galactic civilization, that had modified every other race, that had vanished in a legend. They wanted to meet the species they had never touched. Yes, Cal said. We want to make contact. But first, I need to tell the Council what we found. They deserve to know before we wake up ancient aliens. Acknowledged. Communication channels are available for your use. Cal activated his long-range transmitter. This was going to be one hell of a report. The builder facility hung in space like a frozen dream. Owen watched it through the viewport of the human transport ship, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. The structure was larger than some moons, built from materials that shimmered with colors he had no names for. After 3 months of travel into the far dark, they had finally arrived. Scanning complete, reported Ruth from the sensor station. The facility is emitting a welcome signal, specifically addressing humans by name. They know we're coming. They've been waiting for us, Owen said. 643 builders in suspended animation, watching the galaxy for millions of years. Now they wake up because we showed up. Behind him, Quinn stood with a delegation from the Collective Council. They could come this far, but no farther. The facility's defenses would only permit unmarked individuals to approach. Everyone else had to wait outside and trust that humans would represent galactic interests honestly. This is an enormous responsibility, Quinn said quietly. You will be speaking for all of us. I know. I'll do my best. Owen assembled his team. 20 humans, carefully chosen to represent different specialties and perspectives. Scientists, diplomats, engineers, even a philosopher. They boarded a smaller shuttle and approached the facility. The structure opened for them. Massive doors that had been sealed for eons parted smoothly, revealing a docking bay lit with soft blue light. The shuttle settled onto the landing platform without difficulty. Outside, through the windows, Owen could see pristine corridors and active systems. The builders had maintained this place perfectly. They disembarked carefully. The artificial gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth's standard. The air was breathable, which the sensors confirmed with some surprise. The builders had prepared for human physiology. A holographic guide appeared, taking the form of a simple humanoid figure. Welcome, administrators. The builders are prepared to meet you. Please follow. They walked through corridors decorated with art from 1,000 civilizations. Owen recognized some pieces from collective museums, originals thought lost forever. The builders had preserved them, collecting cultural artifacts from across their empire. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. In the center, arranged in neat rows, were hundreds of stasis pods. Most were dark and inactive, but 43 showed signs of life, their occupants visible through transparent panels. The builders were smaller than Owen expected, roughly human-sized, with 4 arms and smooth silver skin that reflected light oddly. Their faces were angular, with large eyes and delicate features. They looked fragile, like beings who had evolved past the need for physical strength. One pod began to open. The builder inside stirred, moving slowly, awakening from sleep that had lasted longer than human civilization. When its eyes opened, they were golden and kind. The builder stepped out of its pod, steadying itself on unfamiliar legs. It looked at Owen and the human team, and Owen felt like he was being measured against some impossible standard. Then the builder smiled. Hello, it said in perfect galactic standard. Thank you for coming. We have been waiting so very long. Owen found his voice. I'm Owen, representing humanity and the collective. We found your archives. We understand what you did, what you left behind. We have questions. Of course you do, and we will answer them all. The builder gestured to the other pods. My companions are waking as well. It will take time. We are old, even in stasis. But we want to explain everything to you, face to face, as we should have done from the beginning. More pods opened. Builders emerged, each one showing signs of age despite their preservation. They moved carefully, supporting each other, a species that had sacrificed everything to maintain their final project. Owen's team set up recording equipment while the builders gathered. When everyone was ready, the first builder began to speak. We're the last of our kind, not in numbers, but in purpose. The builder civilization ended 5 million years ago when we realized we had made a terrible mistake. We tried to help younger species, to guide them, to protect them from the dangers we had faced. In doing so, we made them dependent on us. We changed their genetics, their evolution, their futures. We meant well, but we took away their choice. Another builder continued. When we understood what we had done, we tried to fix it. We built the preservation system, created the therapy protocols, prepared everything needed to undo our interference. But we could not administer the fix ourselves. Marked species would not trust us. They would see it as another manipulation. We needed someone else, someone we had never touched. So you waited for us, Owen said. For humanity, for an unmarked species. We waited for anyone. We did not know who would come or when. We only knew that eventually, somewhere in the galaxy, a species would evolve beyond our reach and find their way to the stars. You're that species. You're what we hoped for. Why not just leave instructions? Why stay in stasis? Because we owe you an explanation. We owe every species we modified an apology and a choice. The archives contain therapy protocols, but they do not contain context. They do not explain why we did what we did, or what we learned from our mistakes. That requires conversation, not data transfer. The builders spent the next several hours explaining their history. They described the plague that nearly destroyed them, the desperate search for a cure, the decision to modify other species to protect them from a threat that might return. They talked about their slow realization that the plague was gone, that the modifications were no longer necessary, that they had fundamentally altered galactic evolution for no reason. We prepared the zones as refuges, a builder said, places where unmarked species could be safe if the modifications failed. But we also prepared them as meeting places. We wanted to explain ourselves to whoever found them. We wanted to give you the choice we took from others. Owen listened, recording everything, trying to process the weight of what he was hearing. The builders had shaped galactic civilization, created the genetic foundation for hundreds of species, and then stepped back because they realized their help had become harmful. What do you want from us? Owen asked. We want you to distribute the therapy protocols to every marked species. We want you to explain what we did and give them the choice to keep our modifications or remove them. We want you to help them understand that their genetics are their own, not ours to control. The builder paused. And we want your forgiveness. Our forgiveness. Humanity never asked to be the administrators of our legacy. You evolved naturally, built your own civilization, found your own path. Then you discovered our zones and inherited responsibility for fixing our mistakes. That is unfair. You deserve better. Owen considered this. The builders were right. Humanity had been pulled into galactic politics, given access to ancient technology made necessary for the survival of other species. All because they lacked genetic markers they never knew existed. But they also gained something. They gained purpose. They gained the ability to help on a scale most civilizations never dreamed of. They gained the trust of species who had no reason to trust anyone. We accept, Owen said. We'll distribute the therapy protocols. We'll explain everything to the collective. We'll make sure every species understands their options. Not because you asked us to, but because it's the right thing to do. The builder's golden eyes shimmered. Thank you. We also have something else to offer. Our technology, our knowledge, everything we learned in millions of years of exploration. It is yours to share with the galaxy. That's generous, but we don't need payment for doing what's right. It is not payment. It is partnership. We are dying. Our species fades, regardless of stasis or medical care. We have perhaps a century remaining. In that time, we want to work with you, teach you, learn from you. We want to see what unmarked species can accomplish when they have the tools we can provide. Owen looked at his team. They nodded. This was bigger than any one person's decision, but someone had to start the conversation. We'll discuss it with the collective. We'll make sure everyone has a voice in this. But speaking personally, I think we'd like to learn from you. And maybe you can learn from us too. The builders moved forward, and for the first time in millions of years, they made physical contact with another species. Simple handshakes, human custom, but the meaning was clear. Partnership, cooperation, a new beginning built on the foundation of old mistakes. Owen returned to the shuttle hours later, exhausted but hopeful. Quinn was waiting, nearly vibrating with anticipation. Well, Quinn demanded. What happened? Everything changed, Owen said. The builders are awake. They want to help. They want to fix what they broke. And they want humanity to lead the effort. Led? Humans are the newest species in the collective. Exactly. We don't have the baggage. We don't have the history of being modified or controlled. We could be neutral arbiters, helping everyone else navigate what comes next. Quinn was quiet for a moment. The council will have concerns. They always do. But the builders are offering everything they have. Knowledge, technology, therapy for genetic problems we didn't know existed. We just have to be willing to share it fairly. And you trust the builders? Owen thought about the ancient beings waking from stasis, their tired eyes, their genuine remorse. I think they spent 5 million years learning from their mistakes. Yeah, I trust them, at least enough to give them a chance. The journey back to collective space took another 3 months. During that time, Owen and his team prepared a comprehensive report. They documented everything the builders had shared, every therapy protocol, every piece of technology, every scrap of historical context. When they finally presented their findings to the council, the response was mixed. Some species were angry about the genetic modifications. Others were grateful for the protection, even if the threat was gone. Everyone had questions about the therapy protocols and what they would mean for future generations. But they all agreed on one thing. Humanity had proven trustworthy. The builders had chosen well. Over the following years, humans became the bridge between the old galaxy and the new. They administered therapy to species that wanted it, preserving the modifications for those who prefer to keep them. They shared builder technology carefully, ensuring no one species gained unfair advantage. They maintained the zone network, allowing faster communication and travel across the galaxy. And they worked alongside the builders, learning everything the ancient species could teach before time finally claimed them. 50 years after first contact, the last builder died peacefully, surrounded by human caretakers. Their species was gone, but their legacy transformed into something new, something better. Humans entered the zones without question because they had nothing to fear. Others entered at their peril because they carried marks from a civilization that tried too hard to help. But together, marked and unmarked, old and new, the galaxy moved forward. The forbidden zones were forbidden no longer. They were home to cooperation, understanding, and hope.